photosynthesis, we actually want some CO2. So we need CO2, but CO2 can also be removed from the atmosphere just like oxygen can. CO2 is much more stable, so it'll stick around longer, but it gets pulled out by things like silicate weathering, which means it gets locked up in rocks. Okay, so you take too long, you'll not have the CO2, but if you go too slow, you won't have the oxygen. We are in a really bad catch-22. Can we catch the curve? Probably not, unfortunately. So here's our summary. And there was a paper done in 2008. It was recently published last year, and basically what it said is the amount of time it's going to take for a planet with a mass similar to the Earth to lose all of its CO2 without something really funny happening is only about 6 to 7 billion years. So we don't need to worry about the sun eating us. We need to worry about running out of CO2 on the Earth for the plants to photosynthesize so we can breathe. That's a problem. So the other thing we need to do is just find more CO2, and fortunately there are huge amounts of CO2 just floating around the solar system. Ta-da! I found a mountain of CO2. Comets are about 80% CO, so carbon monoxide, and CO2. Take that, smash it into the planet you want to live on later, and now you've got it ready to be able to do photosynthesis. So do that shortly before you have the planet entering the habitable zone. Seed it with some sort of Carl Sagan-esque photosynthesizing organisms, and by the time the habitable zone gets there, you might have a couple 100 million years to be able to live on it. Yay! So this is one hell of an investment. I won't be around to see it, but if I really, really, really care about my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren, it might be worth doing. So this is a long-term survival strategy, but not something you want to do in the general sense. So that's kind of the end of my talk for this year. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I always take suggestions for other years, but as I said kind of at the beginning, it's extremely, extremely hard to do this talk because a lot of times it's hard to constrain variables. Does anybody have any questions?